Tuesdays at 11, love it live. That's right. Stacking the box 52 weeks out of the year. Verderam going collared shirt today. Don't know what to make of it. I'm a little rattled out of the gates here. Verderam, Aaron Rodgers doing what he does for us in the offseason. Back in the news. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you as well, Carm. And yes, it wouldn't be an offseason without Aaron Rodgers always finding a way to just make sure he's in the headlines. And then I'm sure at some point complaining about the fact he's in the headlines. And then that'll be a nice cycle that we'll have until we all get to the gates of hell. Because or maybe we're at them. And this is actually what it is. It's not a dry heat. It's just a never-ending loop of the guy who acts like he's the smartest person in the room, being like, hey, I hate that I'm getting attention, but please don't turn away. And here we are.
Well, let me, for those who missed the Aaron Rodgers Instagram post, I figured I would just read it just so we can all digest it here. So, Aaron Rodgers 12 on Insta. Here's some ... hashtag Monday night gratitude. Aaron busy last night for some of the incredibly special people in my life with some pictures from the last beautiful year. At Shailene Woodley, thanks for letting me chase after you the first couple of months after we met and finally letting me catch up to you and be a part of your life. Interesting that he's going into his personal life here. Thanks for always having my back, for the incredible kindness you show me and everyone you meet, and for showing me what unconditional love looks like. I love you and am grateful for you. Now, he moves along. To the men, I got to share the quarterback room with every day. Matt, Nathaniel, Luke, at Jordan3Love, at Kurt Benkert. You guys made every day so much fun, and I'm so thankful for the daily laughs, not every other day, daily, and stress relief you brought me every week of the year. Not daily stress relief, but every week of the year, the stress relief. I love you guys. The love is out. To the Friday crew, he's got AIYDA Cobb, Randall Cobb's on here, Frankie, Chevy, and David Bakhtiari. I loved every moment we got to spend together this year. Your love and support was overwhelming, and I cherish the friendships I have with each of you. To my teammates, past and current, you are the icing on the beautiful cake we call our job, football. The friendships that we have will transcend our collective time in the game, and I am so thankful for the role that each of you have played in making my life that much better. I love you guys and cherish the memories we've made. To everyone else, spread love and gratitude, you beautiful people. He's talking to you, Verderam. And read a book once in a while, too, while you're at it. Love and peace. 2 hearts. Aaron Rodgers, 12. There you go. There it is. What do you make of it?
Your buddy tweeted something like that or put an Instagram up of that. You'd call them, right? Make sure they were all right.
It's funny because like you've put out some really heartfelt stuff on Instagram over the years, but it's been sort of it's either been warranted family stuff and or just gratitude towards work, right? This is just all-encompassing. Ex-fiancés, all his teammates, the history of his career. I don't know what to make. Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? What the hell does it mean is what I want to know.
First of all, there's no point in trying to discern what he means because that is the point with him. Like, that is the point. If he wanted to just get it out there of whatever he wants to do, he would just say it. But that would make the limelight a lot shorter and a lot more of a brief stage. And he doesn't want that. Now, he's, I'm sure, going on the Pat McAfee show, as he always does. That's his guy. That's his spot. And my guess is he'll say whatever he's going to do there to help Pat out and to make sure that he's taking care of him. And that's fine. Just go ahead. I think that last night was all about just wetting the beak and making everybody pay attention. God forbid, like, he was out of the news for a couple of weeks there because, you can't win a playoff game So now they've got to be back in the news, and he's got to be back in the news and make sure that everybody's aware. And then I'm sure at some point, as is his wont, he'll complain about the fact that he's in the news. And I just was putting out a post of gratitude, and I don't understand why the media has to try and figure out what I meant by it, which we all know is the biggest line of bullshit right on the face of the earth. We all know it's coming. And look, the bottom line is he's going to do one of three things. Going to want out, want in, or retire. That's it. That's it. Don't need an 8 million word post to figure that out. Like, he's going to do one of those three things. And if you're the Packers, you're probably like, hey, man, we need to know now because the tag window opens up today. And he's talked about the fact openly that I need to really probably tell them by the tag window. So here we are. And now we can move into whatever the hell is going to happen next with him. But I don't for 2 seconds think that he's just going to say whatever he has to say today, and then all of a sudden, all's quiet for the rest of their off season. No chance, 0 chance that happens.
I was listening to different takes on this, and some people think that this means that he's coming back to Green Bay. Some people think he's retiring. Some people think he's going to up in Denver. You're basically just saying that he's looking for attention, and then he wants to complain about the attention, what gives him more attention. Just a guy who wants to as much shine on him as possible. Listen, I actually kind of liked the post, for the record. I know that everyone is, we got Clint here saying it's a self-aggrandization is Aaron Rodgers' superpower, and you're clearly irritated by it. I kind of think at least the salute to another one of Aaron's exes was kind of nice. A little weird, but kind of nice.
Nothing that he said was like out of bounds or anything. It's just like
you can't take it anymore. That's what I'm hearing.
It's so obnoxious, man. Like, just do whatever the hell you're gonna do and move on. Like, honestly, I will forever respect Brady. He's been like, look, man, I'm good. I'm done. I'm done. And yeah, he did his 10-part series on ESPN. Fine. It's actually very good if you've watched it. Fine. Right? Like, I'm not saying he's got to put out a presser and that's it. But it's never ending. It's never ending. This goes back to last year in the offseason when he held them hostage, or tried to anyway, for months and months and months on end in the offseason. Unless we forget draft night, which he upstaged every one of those kids that night because he had to try and screw the Packers as much as humanly possible because he was upset with the fact that they weren't supporting him enough, which, oh, by the way, is the biggest line of crap on the face of the earth. If you go and look at that team throughout his career, yeah, look, Mike McCarthy's not a great head coach. I'm not going to argue that point. He's been surrounded by a lot of talent. This is not Matt Stafford in Detroit, okay? He's had plenty of guys who have been really good players. And he spent all last offseason, then supposedly, by the way, also, it wasn't supposed to come out that day of the draft. Bullshit. You're going to tell me that he and Schefter, there was just some plan, this just happened. Now, look, Schefter has control of that too. We don't have to go down that road. But, you think Aaron Rodgers was really devastated that came out the night of the draft? Of course not. Anything in the NFL that you think happens by coincidence with guys at that high of a level, it's not a coincidence. Okay? The coincidences don't exist at that high of a level in the NFL. They don't.
So Carter weighed in on he's the kind of guy who wants a farewell tour, which I'm not sure if he is or isn't, but I personally like farewell tours. I like celebrating the greatest players who ever played in their sport. They deserve the standing ovations. I like a tear on the last day. I like to know when they're leaving, type of thing. But and then Eddie E, our guy, good to see you, Eddie E. Why can't the media just ignore this stuff? Because
it's a huge story, Ed.
Because Ed,
I love it.
Ed, if I go to his Instagram post, how many likes do you think that thing has? Let me go back and look at it. It's got 311,000 hearts, 6,498 comments. That's not the media just doing that. That's the NFL fans of the world, and not even NFL fans.
If we didn't talk about it, we wouldn't be in this business. Okay. But I will tell you right now, Ed, and anybody else listening, I hate talking about stuff like this. I do. And Carm's laughing because he knows it's true. I hate this. Like, I'd rather talk about football. I got into this business to talk about football, not to talk about some drama show that never ends. And by the way, to finish up my granted long-winded thought on this was, after the draft happened, and he, look, fine, doesn't show up to OTAs, mini camp, and he showed up training camp, give him credit for that. That's fine. He was there. He went through that whole off season with all that bullshit. Then it turned, I'm immunized. Well, as it turns out, you're not immunized because you got COVID and you're not vaccinated, and you've been lying about it the whole time. You've been skirting protocols and talking to the media and everything else. And that's not, by the way, that's not a take on like whether or not you're vaccinated. It's about lying about it. I mean, there are plenty of guys in the league that weren't vaccinated. Kirk Cousins is an example right in his division. Kirk Cousins didn't lie about it. Like, he lied about the whole thing. Then he's constantly like, it's like everybody else's fault all the time, right? Like, he's like that guy who, you're buddies with, who's gone on like 400 dates and has never been able to keep somebody for more than like 6 months, keep a relation for more than 6 months. And the guy's at the bar one night, and he's like, man, I just don't get it. I just can't find all these girls I meet. It's just, like, bro, have you ever thought the common denominator is you? Like, have you ever thought that? I mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but I mean, honestly, like, has he ever stopped and thought to himself, like, geez, you know what? I have won a Super Bowl now, and what has it been? 11 years, 12 seasons worth here? Like, and yet it's always somebody. The Packers didn't support me enough. This didn't happen. The media's out to get. Have you ever thought maybe it's you? Like, that you're part of now? No. Of course, in a team game, there's a lot of things, right? Some of these games he's played very well in, and their defense is stunk. Okay. Some of them, they've just been outclassed by the teams, and that's fine. Like, not everything comes down to Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of reasons that over the years the Packers have lost playoff games, or they've even missed the playoffs occasionally. But like the last couple of years in particular, okay, the last two, he's been a huge part of the reason that in the playoffs they've fallen on their face. They lost that Buccaneers game in large part because he was atrocious in the second half of the game. And we've got, listen, if nothing else, we're consistent. We ripped Mahomes after the AFC title game for them losing to the Cincinnati. Mahomes was awful. Call it what it is. Rodgers was awful against the Niners. He was awful. Garoppolo was playing with half of an arm in 8-degree weather. And the Packers, after their first drive, scored 3 points the rest of the night. Like, I don't care if he wants to come out and say, hey, look, I've got issues, but I also know I've got to be better. But it's never really that, right? It's always that, like, smartest guy in the room. Everyone else has let me down. And I don't know why that always seems to happen to me. It's like, I'm tired of it. Do whatever you got to do, man. Like, you're a great player, but like, it doesn't always have to be a 10-part sonnet. It can just be what it is. And look at the mirror occasionally over this stuff.
So this particular playoff debacle I thought was especially bad because I just don't know what happened. Like,
it's the worst one of his career.
I mean, there's other players on the field other than Devontae Adams. I didn't get it, and that was just unbelievably stunning and disappointing. However, I do hope he comes back, and I hope he stays in Green Bay, and that's fine, Aaron. Bring the drama. Speaking of, Vernon, if I may pivot for a second here to something that's not on our rundown, but speaking of drama, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. I want your thoughts on this. He maintains here, quote, I got a great email. I don't know that the person wants his name to be shared, but it's explaining what's going on with Tom Brady. It's a classic midlife crisis. Step 1, a divorce from the Patriots. Step 2, a short-term relationship with the trophy girl like the Bucks. Step 3, a late-night text to the high school sweetheart, a.k.a. the 49ers. And Florio, I'm telling you, it's unavoidable. He's going to lower himself to have to dirty himself the way Aaron Rodgers is. He's going to work it all behind the scenes. I think he's going to be with the 49ers week 1 of the 2022 season. Mike Florio going on record that Brady's, and I've said that, look, he doesn't want to retire. He's doing it for his family. You know, guys that do that they end up coming back to football because it's or the whatever sport, because it's the number one thing he loves. And here's Florio speculating on San Francisco, which, for the record, and I want all your thoughts here, doesn't make any sense. The 49ers have invested in Trey Lance. It would be very odd for them at this point to at least punt on that, even for a season, and that the Bucs would give him up to let him go to San Francisco. None of that makes sense, but Mike Florio knows more about the NFL than I do and what goes on behind the scenes. So there you have it.
Well, so a few things. One is, Carm, if he comes back, I'll eat it, because you were all about like, hey, I think he's going to be back, which if it happens, kudos to you. My thought on it is, and you hit it on the last part of what you said, the Bucs retain his rights.
Right.
It's not like he can just go sign there. Like, the Niners would have to trade. Well, what do the Niners have to trade? They don't have a first-round pick. They traded for Trey Lance. So what are you like? The Bucs aren't giving him away for a third here. I wouldn't. I'd be shocked. Now, if he goes to the Bucs and he just says, "Look, I want to play my last year in San Francisco. I gave you guys 2 great years. Gave you a Super Bowl. Do me a solid. Just trade me there. Trade me there. I'm not going to trash you guys publicly or anything. I'm not, it's not the way I want this to go down. You're not winning the Super Bowl next year anyway. You guys are going to have to kind of rebuild a little bit now. Like, trade me to San Francisco." Would they do that for maybe? Maybe they would just be, you know what? He goes to the Niners and he does go for a mid-round pick and whatever. But I kind of have a hard time. I mean, he's a huge asset. Like, the Bucs are just going to hand him away. I mean, yeah. Now maybe he just says, "Look, it's the Niners. I'm retiring," and the Niners have to give up, a 2023 first or something. I don't know, but I don't think it's impossible. It's his hometown team. Like, if there is any scenario I see him playing, like, that makes sense. And Mike Florio is plugged in there. Like, I guess in the end, if you're the 49ers, would you do it? I mean, I would. Hell yeah, I would do it. I don't care. I mean, if I could get him for a year, yeah, because I could win the Super Bowl. But
and to your initial, like, Brady actually doing this behind the scenes and going to Tampa, I think you would have a very fair argument. Hey, you owe me. I brought Tampa damn Bay an effing Super Bowl. Do me a solid. And by the way, I'm not coming back to play with you. So if you do trade me, whatever asset it is, be it a first-round pick in the next 5 years or second, third, whatever, it's an asset that you didn't have. So you're getting another thing from me, and you're taking care of me. So if I was Tampa, I would, if that actually happened, I would tell him, "Tom, sorry that you're not going to be with us, but we appreciate you, and we'll make a deal with the 49ers," which would be crazy. And then, but that, from San Francisco's standpoint, Trey Lance, hey, dude, I know you expected to play this year, but you get to learn for a year with the GOAT. It's going to help you long-term. Soak it all in. I know it's disappointing in the moment, but we really think long-term, this is going to be great for you. And I'm telling you right now, it's a 1-year swan song, see you later deal. So suck it up. And this is life.
I mean, if I'm the Niners, I would absolutely. I think they'd go to the Super Bowl if they had him. Are you kidding me? The team went to 1 Super Bowl and lost in the NFC title game in another year with Jimmy friggin' Garoppolo.
I love that we just, by the way, fully believe, and it's got to be true, that he's just going to continue being able to play at this level for, I don't know, ever.
Well, if he comes back, he will. I don't know. I mean, he, in that regard, like, I've seen a whole, in the wake of his retirement, there's been a whole lot of, like, is he the greatest? Of course he's the greatest. He's not anywhere near the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. Like, it's not even close. He's not even in my top 5, but he's the greatest winner I've ever seen in my life. Like, in football. He's much more like Jeter, right? Than he is Mike Trout. Like, Mike Trout is just otherworldly, all-time talented player. I don't know that anybody would sit there and look at Derek Jeter and go, Derek Jeter was the most talented X ever. What was he the most talented at? Like he wasn't
Sure.
overly fast.
Sure,
He
it's a
wasn't
great
a
comp.
power hitter, but the guy just won all the time. Like, I remember, look, I am an Oakland A's fan, okay? And in the early 2000s, they played them a couple times in the playoffs. The A's were, especially one of those years, more than good enough to win the series. They got up 2-0, and then what happens in the series? You have the flip play where he's not like he's literally 100 feet from where he's supposed to be, but he's him, so he makes the play. And then later in that series, it gets forgotten in Game 5. He makes this like unbelievable, like falling into the stands on the run catch at Yankee Stadium, and he's all blood. And it's like the guy, you're like, there's nothing about him talent-wise that you'd say, wow, that jumps, he's so toolsy. But he's phenomenal. And Brady's the same way. Doesn't have the strongest arm. Isn't mobile, in terms of running for yards. He's one of the best movers in the pocket I've ever seen. But like nothing about him that, he's not overly big. But then you watch him and it's just brilliance personified. If he came back and played for the Niners, which by the way, I do not think will happen, but I also would not rule out. I mean, yeah, they'd be my pick to go to the Super Bowl and maybe even win it.
I got two things for you. Number one, you just made me think of, I don't know if you had a kid growing up that was like that just had it at like 7, but Craig Bondi back in 60035 Highland Park, the dude just had it. Everything he was good at, he's great on the basketball court, good at every sport, A's in the classroom. Some dudes, they just have it. And like now he's an investment banker, he's got zillions of dollars and whatever else. That's a Brady. And back to your Rodgers thing, you just made me think of another thing. Like it's never you. I'm all about my childhood today, Verderame, as we've hit the off season. Paul Tarpey, the great Paul Tarpey, he would dive for balls when we would play like mush ball on concrete, and then he'd be laying there on the concrete blacktop, half dead because his shoulder just fell off, and he'd be looking around for someone to say like, I'm sorry, Paul. I'm like, I'm sitting there, dude. You just slid, you dove on concrete. Of course you're injured, and now you want everyone's sympathy. It's kind of the same thing with Rodgers. Dude dives on concrete all day long and then complains that everybody else, that like something's wrong, that he's getting too much attention.
Yeah. I mean, look, we can digress here, but yeah, look, it's just.
I love a good digress.
I have no issue at all with him doing whatever he wants to do with his life. I mean, play, go somewhere else, go stay with the Packers, retire. I'm like, hey, man, it's your life. It's your life. And yeah, we all cover it, but that who cares? It's his life. And he has a right to do it and live it the way he wants to. And look, I actually commend him for, a lot of times with him, like he'll break news on like the McAfee show and stuff. And hey, you know what? Like, good for him taking care of his guy and helping him out. And listen, there's a lot of good in that. My issue with him is it's just, at least the way it comes off, it's so disingenuous. A lot of this stuff, like it's just so fraudulent. It's like, look, man, you like even at the end, like, go read a book. Like, okay, hey, bro, like, why don't you go read a book on science? Okay, like, why don't you go read that book? Make it back to me. Like, I just can't. It's always this air of like, I'm smarter than you. I'm a little bit better than you. It's like, really? Are you really? Because you have the same amount of rings as Brad Johnson. Like
That's
spare
awesome.
spare me how like you are somehow this higher being that we should all aspire to ascend to that higher level. And I think that's what turns people off. That's what it certainly is with me. Like, and I'll make this point real quick. But I think it's an important point. And I might write about it in Stack in the Box on Monday, depending on how the rest of the week plays out. But it's the early favorite in the clubhouse. You look around the NFL, you look at the very good to great quarterbacks. And I'm going to lump Brady in here for a minute, okay? Because even though he's retired, I'm going to include him in this. Tom Brady played over 2 decades in the NFL, had a divorce with the greatest dynasty in NFL history. There was no drama to it. There really wasn't. I mean, there was drama in the sense of like what's going to happen, but none of it created by him. It was very like, this is what I'm doing. This is what's happening. You look around the league right now, you don't hear a word like Josh Allen. There's no drama with that. There's no drama. Now, Mahomes, like his family's always in the crosshairs for reasons that I think at times are a little fair. I think at times are really unfair. But Patrick Mahomes himself, there's no drama with Patrick Mahomes. There's no drama with Justin Herbert. There's no drama with Lamar Jackson, right? Like, there's these guys just they do their jobs and they're incredibly in the limelight, and yet, like, they seem to be the everyman within their own locker room. Joe Burrow, another one, right? Like, I interviewed Joe Burrow last Sunday after they lost in the Super Bowl, and while he was at the podium, asked him a question. And he was obviously down, but like Joe Burrow sat there, and, he engaged with you. He answered everybody by looking him right in the eye and giving him an answer in the toughest moment of his career. And with Rodgers, it always just feels like you're just a little bit below him and you're not as smart as him, and he's controlling every little thing of. And if I really believed that he was smarter than everybody else, I'd go, well, that's just the way it is. It doesn't feel that way, does it? Like, it just feels like he's trying to create this air that doesn't exist. And I've been fortunate and blessed enough. Like, I've spoken to, Patrick Mahomes at Super Bowls, and Tom Brady right after he won a Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow right after he lost the Super Bowl. And I didn't ask Stafford a question, but was at his presser afterward. Like, there's a professionalism that combines with a front, at least, of humility, even though, of course, these guys believe they're the best and they have an ego because they have to at this level. With Rodgers, there's a certain charm in the fact that he doesn't really give a shit, but there's also an affront to the idea that he's just so much better than everything around him. That turns a lot of people off. And I think that's what he's done over the last year.
Yeah, he has. You're talking about drama and Mahomes, which just reminded me. You refuted the story that was out there about Mahomes' family being banned from games.
Yeah.
What do you got on that for our Chiefs fans out here?
All right, you know what? Here's an exclusive for everybody who listens to this podcast. Because here, you want a good story? Here's what happened. So let me make sure I got the timeline lined up here. Last week was Thursday morning. It was Thursday morning. I wake up and I've got a text message on my phone from a number I don't recognize. And it's a group text. It's to myself and an NFL insider who I'm not going to name. I don't know if he'd care or not, but I'm not going to name his name. Very well known. And the text reads out. I'll even pull it up. I'll pull it up and read it. Let me find it here real quick. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Very bizarre. Okay. I'm not going to start with the way he addresses it because it would give away the other insider. It says, take this info however you'd like. Patrick had a sit down following the season with his brother and fiance. Ultimately, it concluded with him asking them not to not attend any games this upcoming season. He believes they've become a distraction and their sideline antics are bad for his brand. That's the text.
Okay.
I spend a good chunk of Thursday morning trying to pin down who this person is and whether or not this is real. And so I can't go into all of how I pinned this down for obvious reasons, but was able to discern without any doubt that it was false. And the person ended up getting back to me late that night because I asked them, I don't have this number. Who is this? The person claimed to be another media member who I know for a fact it is not. And so it became a false flag of a report. So I'm like, all right. So I did nothing with it because it's a non-story. Next day, Rich Warrenberger, who is a former NFL player who does radio now, who's a very nice guy, unfortunately got snared in this and tweeted that out as a report. It went nuts. It got picked up by a litany of different companies. I then refuted it because I knew it was not true. And I also knew that he had the exact same information I did because I just read you that text, and that text sounds an awfully lot like those tweets, does it not? Like almost verbatim.
Sure.
So knew it wasn't true, refuted it. And the refute of the original report blew up. It got posted on Instagram Live that Barstool did, and it just went crazy. I have not shared this, but I will now because I think it's
Yes.
interesting. Saturday morning, I woke up to another number that I don't know, this time just texting me, with another text with information about another AFC quarterback. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, both of these numbers, by the way, different numbers, both of them Chicago area phone numbers. Don't know what that means. Might mean absolutely nothing. Just tossing it out there. And this one, I also didn't record.
We're gonna have to cross-reference these numbers with my phone after the show. Go
Darn,
ahead.
I spent a lot of time because it is very bizarre. Okay. Now I get another, like I said, another text, and I did not go with it at all because I don't believe it. And I have no reason to even try to pin this down because it doesn't make sense. But it was essentially that it was about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and how they're not they're not close on a deal. Which, by the way, I'm not saying that in and of itself is either accurate or inaccurate, but got the text on Thursday about Mahomes, got that text on Saturday about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And I'm not going to say the person said they were because I can't prove that they're not this person, whereas the one on Thursday, no, they're not this person. But like very, very bizarre. The Mahomes thing, I know 100% is false. The Jackson thing, I have no reason to be able to back that up and say it's true or whatever. But it's been very odd. Very odd. And I texted the other insider who was on the Thursday one, said, hey, man, have you gotten this text? No, they had not. I texted another person who I know is an insider who got the Mahomes text, asked them. They had not gotten the Lamar thing. So I don't know what to make of all that. But it's been a weird couple of days.
Well, just to give a little just further backing of what you're talking about of how news gets broken. Sometimes people get information that they want out there, but they want to remain anonymous. Now, giving a phone number would not be that. But in the Adrian Peterson, when his whole family scene broke in Minnesota, that came from an egg avatar on Twitter. That's how that started. An egg avatar on Twitter wrote at Nick Wright, who did not believe it at all. And then upon further investigation and going down the rabbit hole, then you actually have real people telling you real things. And that's what happened. So it
can happen, which is why I spent 4 hours tracing this Mahomes thing. And just was able to confirm that it was just not true. I don't mind saying the Lamar thing. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to say who the person claimed they were, and I'm not going to read through the whole text because there was a little more than that. There's actually a lot more than that, but that was the gist of it. That, hey, here's something I'm being told about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, where they are with the contract. Which could that be true? It could be true. I mean, look, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, it's bizarre. And then you ask the person who they are, and they tell you, and you're like, well, that really, okay, like after everything that went on with the Mahomes thing, I'm inclined to just go, I don't trust that at all. But it's been weird. And, look, obviously somebody with this Mahomes thing, I think they kind of just wanted to go fishing and see if they could start up a little trouble. And they were able to. And so, look, that's why it's so important. And I know, and we live in this day and age with the media where like nobody trusts the media and sometimes rightfully so, quite honestly, with the way stories are handled and things are done. Journalism matters, and it matters the way you handle these things. And we all screw up from time to time. Okay. Like I'm not perfect. Nobody is. I'm not getting on Rich. Like Rich, listen, he did his mea culpa. It happens. But I'm just saying, like, it matters to vet these things. And because, especially with stuff like that Mahomes story, that's not just about him. That's about his family. Like there is more to it. And, I got to give credit here. Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star wrote a column about, what it says about us as a society, like the way Mahomes' family has been treated and kind of run through the mud in the last year or so. And listen, I will say not that I want to even really give my 2 cents in this, but I'll just say this. I thought it was a really well done column by Sam. Also, I think that as a reporter and as a writer, there is an obligation to tell the story. There's an obligation to be right above all else, but an obligation to inform the public and inform your readers and your listeners. That being said, I'm a firm believer that if it doesn't involve something happening on the field or something pertaining to on the field, i.e., a legal situation, okay, that might cause a suspension, something like that, I think it's out of bounds. Now, if Mahomes had actually told his family, hey, don't come to these games, is it newsworthy? Yes. Is it something to report? Maybe. I mean, it is in the sense Mahomes is a huge deal. It's not in the sense it's a family matter. I don't know.
Yeah,
Go
if
ahead,
this
Clint.
was the 50s and you were riding trains with the players and you found that out, they wouldn't report it. In the 2022, if a reporter gets that, most likely he's putting it out there. Even, I mean, maybe Adam Schefter wouldn't, but I guarantee you it would be in most places. Let's say it like that.
I agree with you. And you know what? Had I traced that down and been told it's accurate and it's true and I believed it to be true, I don't know.
I
Might have
agree.
gone with it.
I agree with you in theory, though, that like it just feels out of bounds. Hey, dude, it's none of your business whether his wife, cousin, brother, whoever is coming to the games.
And,
That's
and,
good.
and it's not. Look, I'm not going to play the holier than thou card because it's fan sided on our NFL section. Like we write all the time about, hey, here's something like Brittany Matthews tweeted, right? Like it is fan sided. It's about the fan, and people like to read about that stuff. They do, and we do write about that. But I will say this: you will never catch us ever like mocking the family or writing a negative thing about his family. Like I don't believe. Now, look, if somebody tweets out something that's really off the wall, are we going to cover it? Yeah, probably. It's news in this day and age. I personally will not tweet about it. I don't. I just don't feel right about reporting on stuff like that. I feel it's bizarre. I feel like the other day when he was at a Texas Tech basketball game and he's with his fiance, and people are like, all these like photos of her, like she had a weird facial expression on. She was like in between words or something. And it just becomes this thing. And it's like, what are we doing? And you get these people who are like, oh, shut up. They make $500 million. Okay. So what? Like, what right does that give you to be an asshole? I mean,
well, it's that part of it's like, look, I do you understand how hard it is to get to where these guys have gotten? You got to respect it. And
they've been together. I mean, in this case specifically, they've been together since either like the beginning of high school, junior high. Like, if anything, it should be a nice story. And yet, like, it's like, oh, well, she's really over the top rooting for the guy. Well, what's she supposed to do? Wear like a Josh Allen jersey to the game? I mean, she's his fiance, mother of his child. Like, what? That part, I will never understand. No, you want to say, hey, listen, his brother deserves criticism. Well, listen, his brother is a little bit of a different case in the sense when you're spraying water on fans after the Baltimore game and you're doing a TikTok dance on Sean Taylor's number. Okay, now I don't think he knew the significance of what he was doing, but like that's going to be a news item. That's going to be. That to me is a little different because that happened in the public eye at a game. If you're going to do that at a game, it's different. Like even when Brittany Matthews sprayed champagne on the fans, like to me, I thought that was a non-deal. But like it happened at a game, it was public. This stuff when like the two of them are at a basketball game and people are just like attacking the crap out of them. You go, what do their facial expressions mean? I mean, think about if you're him or you're Brittany Matthews, and you're constantly in the public eye, no matter what you do, every single thing is a story. I feel like this is what it would have been like if Michael Jordan had, if like the Twitter age was the 90s. Can you imagine what that would have been like in Chicago? I mean, he would have to lock himself in the house.
Right. If there had been videos of him in Atlantic City at 1 in the morning.
I was just thinking that. Yep.
Yeah. When they were down 2-0 to the Knicks. By the way, they had won back-to-back titles at that point in his Bulls career, and he deserved every benefit of every single doubt, and they went completely nuts, and Jordan didn't speak to the media for 4 days. And if there was video, it
And
would
then
have been
killed
even
the
more.
Knicks, by the way. So thank you for that to me.
No problem.
Charles Smith.
My point, the point that I want to make here is that if you are a family member or someone that's close to someone who is in the shoes of a Patrick Mahomes or anyone famous, your job is not to make their job more difficult. You do need to be in the background, and because his brother has done stuff where he's put himself in front of the camera, so to speak. Well, now wherever he shows up, it is a thing, which to me makes sense. Like, hey, dude, you're not coming to any games anymore because you're causing me problems. Period. Like, I thought it made sense that at least that Patrick wouldn't want him there. Or, hey, dude, if you are coming, you're going to be in a suite, and I don't want to see you out in the front seats where people can see you. Like, you've just turned into you're not worth the trouble for me.
Well, look, there's certainly going to be more and more. I mean, if they continue, if there continues to be, a water spraying of a fan in Baltimore, if there continues to be a TikTok dance on the sideline where it becomes a news story, then that conversations, I think, the one that you would imagine like can be had at some point, right? I mean, but again, this is where I'll stop short. To me, that's between him and his family. Now, again, to be very clear, if somebody does something at a game, then I think it becomes an inbound situation because it's at a game and it's public. All right. I thought the text that I received on Thursday morning about, he's telling his family this and that. Look, like I said, had I been able to pin down 100%, and I mean 100% that it was factual, would I have reported that? I would have wrestled with it. I would have wrestled with it. But I think the overall point to come full circle with this is it was clearly going to be a story if somebody did go with it and it was false information and it got reported and it became a big deal. And I would just say, I think everybody a lot of times people get so into this idea of like, well, these guys are millionaires. Okay, yes. They live a very, very good life. But I got to tell you, and this isn't just a Mahomes, this is a general thing, but although he is in the spotlight as any player I can remember in the NFL, it's not an easy life. That's not an easy life to live. And I don't care who you. I mean, I go to the grocery store. I don't care, right? You walk out, you go. I could go out in my friggin' pajamas. It doesn't matter. Everything you do, everywhere you go, every time you say you're scrutinized to the hilt. Your family's scrutinized.
That's why you make $500 million.
No, you make $500 million because you're good at football.
Yeah, but you make it. No, yes, because you're good. But if nobody was watching,
of course.
So that's why you get $500 million because people pay to see you. That's what it is. I mean, if you were just great at football but no one cared, then right. you would be the highest paid teacher at a university doing great things, but not making 1/10 of Juwan Howard.
Of course, right? No, you're the public figure, and that's 100. You're right, 100%. I guess my point is he's there because of his talent playing football, and you're right. Though, like I think there is some truth in the idea. Like, look, at some point though, like it almost does it not just become almost gross the way it's covered?
Yeah. I listen. The whole thing. We're down a deep rabbit hole at this point. But like
we've gone way off the
which is totally fine.
But we have nothing else because it's the middle of the off season, so it's okay.
Well, right. And look, I mean, I appreciate the passion of sports fans, the people that watch Stacking the Box, every single damn one of you, Paul, Carter, Clint, Eddie, and whoever else is out there. And I have had moments in my sports life where there seemed like there was nothing else that was more important than whatever team winning said game or whatever player getting the respect that he deserves. But sometimes we do need to take a deep breath and realize, like, yeah, this is just sports and entertainment. It's sports important. It's not life important. Like, I think sports fans at times we lose that. which is another twist in the rabbit hole. And just finishing up the Mahomes thing. Look, Jackson Mahomes showing up because he's popular because of your brother, and then you're showing up at a bar in Kansas City, and you're acting like a complete ass, and then they gotta do a post to saying like, "Hey, dude,
right.
Forget about going to the game. If I was Patrick Mahomes, I'm like, dude, you need to leave the damn city. Like, go live somewhere else where people don't know who you are, and you're just causing me problems. Listen, I love my brother, good old Bruce and Dave Carmen. But if they were causing, my life to be uprooted, and then I got to defend the family name, I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it at all. Here, why don't we wrap up with a couple football things, Verderam? The franchise tag window's open today. What are you expecting to see?
A good bit of action. I mean, the deadline is March 8th, so we'll see it kind of spread over that 2-week period. I think you're going to see the following guys either get the tag or signed long term here in that next stretch: Devontae Adams, Orlando Brown, Mike Gesicki of the Dolphins, Mike Williams of the Chargers, Jesse Bates, a safety for the Bengals, Harold Landry, I think, is an edge rusher for Tennessee. I think there's a good chance he gets tagged. Chandler Jones, it's possible he gets tagged. I'm trying to run them down quickly in my head. I think all those guys just immediately come to mind. I think Marcus Williams of the Saints might get tagged to safety there, although they are so far over the cap, but they don't seem to ever mind. J.C. Jackson of the Pats, as Carter and I are apparently in lockstep. He just put that in there as I see it. Yes, J.C. Jackson. I believe he'll get tagged. So Marcus May, I think, would have with the Jets. He tore his Achilles, so I don't think that's happening. But yeah, there's going to be. I think you're going to see around 10 tags, right around that number. But even with that, it's a free agency class. It's deep. There's a lot of guys out there that can really make a difference. I don't know that they're all like the sexiest names in the world outside of maybe the receivers, but I think you're going to see a lot of good players. Carlton Davis might get tagged by the Bucs a lot. That seems like maybe it's kind of a 50-50. But yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see a decent amount of guys get the tag.
What are you hearing about the combine and the NFL changing it up, as there's been some pushback here from players who don't like the way it's set up and it needs a revamp?
Well, I can tell you this. So on Monday in the written Stack in the Box, I reached out to a litany of different agents because on Saturday, the NFL put out this memo basically saying, hey, look, we're going to like lockdown and each player can have one medical person and that's it. Now the NFL's reversed course. Well, I talked on Sunday night to a bunch of the agents who are like, look, we're not going to stand for this. This is nonsense. Like these kids, and for anyone who doesn't know, these guys, these prospects, they are beyond fine-tuned. Everything's scheduled. Everything is a purpose. There's a nutritionist. There's a medical team. There's a physical, training team. There's the agent themselves. There's in some cases HR, or PR firms rather. So like to tell these kids, hey, look, one person around you, and we're going to give you options for nutrition. Like that's not going to fly. When you're talking about a situation where if these guys have a bad showing, it may cost them millions of dollars. They're not going to do that, and I don't blame them. And I talked to a handful of agents who flat out were like, look, A, this is bullshit. We're not going to do this. Number two, talk to people who are like, hey, look, the combine sucks anyway and has for years, and it's a money-making machine for the NFL, but they screw with these kids. They don't give them the support they need. I had one agent talking to me about the fact they look, like team doctors that are there to evaluate these kids medically, which is the most important thing from a team perspective that happens at the combine. He flat out was like, these guys have no limit as to how many kids they can see, right? He's like, there should be a limit. Like there should be like three kids per doctor. That's it, right? I've talked to people who all feel like the bench press, they should just get rid of it. They feel like it's a waste of time. There's a lot of ideas behind the notion. A lot of people, by the way, hate that they're thinking of moving it out of Indianapolis. Hate it. Like, are irate about it. And I'm sure I'm going to have to schlep it over to friggin' Los Angeles next year or Dallas when they do this. And I don't even know that I'll go, to be totally honest with you. Because for me, the most important part is what happens at night. And if I've got to go all over LA to try to find 3 general managers and an agent, I'd rather just call them.
You're
But
going. I'm talking upper management. I've got you actually a first class flight and a suite next year already
well,
settled.
you got me that. I'm going.
Yeah.
Normally, your boy here is flying coach. Okay, so
I thought it was the Greyhound, but okay. You're
you got coach. But unless you know what I just yes, there are a lot of people in the NFL that want it changed, and a lot of people feel like, look, the NFL itself should be consulting the agents in the NFLPA to make it the best it can be. But I think a lot of the league office just feels like, look, get out there, work out, and we're going to make a ton of money off this, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yep. Well, you just hit on it. At the end of the day, it's about dollars. That's why the combine was created, and a lot of mistakes by scouts are made at the combine because they get super hyped seeing a dude run fast in tight pants and think that will equate to great football. And like literally every year you see somebody getting overdrafted because of it. This was somebody asked about it earlier. Verderam, let's wrap up on Eric Bieniemy. You got an update on his status in Kansas City and whether or not he's going to be the offensive coordinator?
Non-update update. So essentially, I've reached out to everybody I could possibly think of on this. Everybody. And normally the people I've reached out to, like, you'll at least get some kind of a response. Radio silence. Complete silence. Nothing. Which, what does that mean? Could mean a few different things. Could mean, hey, look, we don't want to talk about another man's business. Respectable. Understood. Could mean nobody really knows. And if you talk to people that are around the Chiefs, and I'm talking people that cover them, not in the building. That seems to be a constant theme here with this Bieniemy stuff, that nobody has any idea what the hell is going on. Nobody, right? Like, it is bizarre, I think would be the best word. It's been very, very bizarre that nobody's willing to say a word on this. You know, the belief was, at least my understanding, was that the meeting was going to be last week. I think that was something Schefter put out there. And to my knowledge, it hasn't happened. Now, if you're the Chiefs, you kind of have to have this thing wrapped up by the combine. Do you not? I mean, you got to know who the hell your offensive coordinator is. You got to have your coaching staff. And they really seem to be like in no rush. And I find it weird. Like every NFL team, they're acutely aware of what's being said about them. Okay. Like, and for people who don't think that that's true, like, oh, no, these teams don't care. Yo, they care. Okay. They care. I'll give you a funny story real quick. I had one time, and this was not actually involving the Chiefs. I was on a radio station breaking down a team's offseason and what I thought like shouldn't happen. I got a text from a high-ranking person in the front office during the radio interview being like, this is true, this might happen, that's not going to happen. Like, they were listening to the radio as the interview was going down, and they were just texting like to make sure that like what they wanted out there was at least like represented, right? So the idea that these teams don't care is a joke. And the reason I say all that is to bring up the greater point, which is the Chiefs know that this is a huge talking point. Like, you'd have to be blind and deaf not to understand that. Kansas City, you'd think like they'd be pushing this thing a little bit. Like, hey guys, like let's figure this out. Like, let's get that. Nothing. You've got Bieniemy kind of twisting in the wind here. They're kind of twisting in the wind, and nobody is doing anything about this. And I find it incredibly bizarre. I can't remember a time. Now, granted, I've only been a reporter in the league for about 3 years. I can't remember a time in that, and even going back to just when I was writing about the league, didn't have sources or anything for the prior 6 years, where I can remember something like this happening. It's very strange. It's very. I mean, he's been there forever. Like, it's like Eric Bieniemy's been there 2 years. He's been there throughout Reed's tenure. It's very strange. But no update in the sense that nobody's talking about it at all. And Carter, to your question, do I think they'll have an offensive coordinator by the time free agency starts? I think they'll have him by the time we go to Indianapolis.
What's the beef?
Yeah.
What's the problem? I don't want to send you down another rabbit hole, but in 30 seconds or less, like, what's the problem?
Look, the short answer is I don't know. The quick thing I will tell you, though, is there's been a lot of talk just in league circles, being at Super Bowl, you hear stuff that there was a blow up during halftime of that AFC title game.
Right.
Now that's been out there. I'm not covering new ground with that. And yes, there were publicly on the sideline, like at times like disagreements, especially when they were 3-4. But like that stuff happens. That's the NFL. Like even halftime bluffs. If you don't think that happens, you have no like these guys. This is as big of a high strung profession as you're going to get. Guys scream at each other.
So is it fair to say then that Patrick Mahomes doesn't want Bieniemy and the Chiefs want to keep him and they're trying to work it out?
It's not. That's not fair at all.
Okay.
Let's put it this way. I have no idea if that's fair.
Okay.
I have no idea if that's fair. I have never heard on or off the record somebody trashing Bieniemy from Kansas City, or even the idea that someone was internally I never heard that ever. And I've talked to plenty of people off the record over the years about Bieniemy and whether it be I'm not getting a head coaching job, whatever the case may be. I've never heard one person say, "Oh, really behind the scenes, it's not what you think there." Now that doesn't mean it's not true, but no, I don't think. I think what's fair to say right now, at least as far as I'm concerned, is there's a lot of uncertainty as to what's going on. And I think there's people in two camps right now around the Chiefs. And this I'm talking about people in and around the building. There's either people who genuinely do not know what's happening, okay, who aren't plugged in enough to know what's happening, or there are people who are plugged in enough to know and they're not saying a word about it. And that's frustrating as a reporter, but I mean but that's accurate. That's where we are.
Well, somebody knows something over there, but congratulations.
Of course, but they're not willing to talk.
Right. Congratulations on keeping it under lock and key. All right, let's wrap up here. Verderamo, it was the NBA All-Star Weekend. Let me just give my 2 cents real fast here.
Go
ahead. No, I just when they were announcing the players coming out, and Michael is behind Magic, and Isaiah comes up to Magic, and Magic greets him, shakes his hand, and listens to whatever Isaiah is telling him. And Jordan looks at him for a little, then looks away, and then Isaiah eventually walks away. And then Magic leans back and says something to Michael, clearly about Isaiah. And Jordan then just gives whatever zinger he's got on Zeke. And the two of them are laughing their ass off. That was the moment that I needed for my 75th All-Star game right there, because that beef is never going to die. And we all know that Magic is more with Mike than he is with 11. So thank you very much. I thought that was wonderful.
So well done. By the way, MJ looks like he could still, if he needed to, could he drop 20?
I think he could. At least 10. I mean, when I say 10, I like average 10.
I always love with Jordan. Like obviously he's your guy for all time, right? And he should be. And even though I'm a Knicks fan, he's my favorite basketball player ever because I just loved watching him. Even though at times I hated him because he was destroying my childhood, I loved watching him. Like he just has this way about him. Like even when he's not saying anything, he's just walking, just a look in his. You always think if somebody came up to him and hey, listen, MJ, you go out there and drop 20 tonight, we win the title. You feel like he'd be like, all right, I got 30 in me. It's just now he actually does, but he always has that look about him that I remember as a Knicks fan, even as a kid, you'd be oh God. It's just you knew there's gonna be some moment in the game where he just destroyed you. It was coming, it was always coming. I remember the one game, you'll remember this even better than me, because obviously you're older than me. There was a game at the Garden. It was after his comeback. And it was his double nickel game.
Mm-hmm.
In the last play of the game, they need a basket to win, and everyone in the world is like, "Oh, he's gonna take Starks one-on-one or whatever, right? Nick's best defensive player." He throws it down low to friggin' Bill Wennington, and it was as a Knicks fan, you're like, "Son of a bitch!" It's one thing to lose to MJ going for double nickel. It's another thing he dishes off to friggin' Bill Wennington.
Two-hand slam, big bad Bill Wennington.
I think St. John's great, right? Oh God, but anyway,
it's a good point. Hey, it's good. It's true.
He was on Mark Jackson, Walter Berry, not a bad team.
Chris Mullen, Bill Wennington. Who else they have?
Walter Berry, Mark Jackson.
Yeah,
they were all right.
The Johnnies were something.
That's back when the Big East was the Big East.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. So I actually wrote down something I was going to say about the combine, but I'm going to scrap that because I realized today is February 22nd. Do you know what the significance of that date is, Carl? Sports-wise?
February. I don't.
Miracle on Ice.
Oh, okay. Okay.
42 years ago. Okay.
Wow.
If I look up at my bookcase in my office, it's just off camera. I've got a Sports Illustrated sitting at the very top, and it is the one of the Miracle on Ice. And that game is someone who loves hockey, played hockey. Look, if you're not familiar with the details behind that, I implore you, if you're a fan of sports, and if you're listening to this podcast, of course you are, go watch the HBO documentary. Go watch the movie Miracle, which is an awesome movie. It's really well done. Kurt Russell in it. We all talk about like big upsets, right? It's huge upset. Great, Jets over the Colts in Super Bowl III, Giants over the Patriots in Super Bowl 42. Buster Douglas. There's been no upset in the history of sports like the Miracle on Ice. That is the greatest upset of all time. It is not close. It is not. Carm, you would have been a wee lad at that point, so I'm sure you don't remember the game. But you have any thoughts on the Miracle on Ice?
Well. First off, it was 1980, of course. So I was 7. Not to give my age.
Okay, you're a little older than I thought. I thought you were like maybe 3 or 4. Okay.
Herb Brooks passed away August 11th, 2003. That's my birthday in 2003. He was 66. Just kind of looking at history here. But my good friends growing up, they were all hockey players. Falcons was the team in the northern suburbs of Chicago. Now, my family was a basketball family, and my parents were older and just not clued into what like the people of my age were doing for fun and where like what I should have been doing. I should have been playing hockey because that's what they were all doing. But it was a thing, man. I have very vague memory of it, but it is in there. And like that era, I remember like the Islanders and Mike Bossy, and that was my buddy Chris Carter was a big Islanders fan, and
4 in a row.
Yep. So it's
listen. If you're not familiar with that story, I will tell you this, a little fun anecdote real quick. So 1980, Lake Placid, New York, and my grandmother, my dad's mother, she is a football fan, loves football. Then unfortunately these days has Alzheimer's and does not remember much of anything. But for most of her life, big football fan. Enjoyed baseball. Okay, hated the Yankees. Got along great because of that. Could not care at all about basketball or hockey. They just didn't do nothing about sports until the day they moved out of that house and she was, assisted living and whatnot. Over their laundry, over their washer and dryer, they had a poster of the 1980 U.S. Hockey Olympic team. Like that team meant a ton for a lot of reasons. If you want to, and I'm like, we don't have the time. I'm not going to get into all the stuff that it meant, but there was a lot of stuff with Russia and the Soviet Union at the time, the Cold War, and the country was in a real bad way. They played the Russians in Madison Square Garden. I believe it was 3 days before the Olympics began, an exhibition game. They got destroyed. They lost 10-3. And if you go back and watch the game, it wasn't even that close. Okay. The Russians were the greatest hockey team in the world. Like they played a Challenge Cup against the NHL All-Stars and destroyed the NHL All-Stars. Okay. Destroyed them. Beat them 6-0 in one game. Like just comically beat them. Because back then, for anyone who's unaware, it was all amateurs, but the Russians weren't amateurs. They were basically, fake soldiers in the Soviet Union army. And so that way they kept their amateurism status, but they're the same team for 16 friggin' years. They won the gold in 64, 68, 72, 76. They come to 80. The United States wasn't even supposed to medal. The United States was this nobody team. And they end up getting out of the round robin. They get to the medal round, and they played them in the semifinal. That was not the final. The U.S. beat Finland in the final to win gold. And they played the Soviets, and they beat them 4-3 in a game that, if you go and watch, and it's on YouTube, I'll actually probably watch it today out of respect for the date. You go and watch that game. You can kind of tell nobody in the building thinks they're going to win for about 50 to 55 minutes. And no one is actually believing it. And they score to go ahead with exactly 10 minutes to go in the game. Mike Ruzioni, right? They score, go 4-3. And then as that last 10 minutes starts ticking down, the crowd, obviously very American in New York, like, is out of its mind because they're realizing, like, oh my God, they might actually win this game. It's it's one of the great watches. If you have nothing but 10 minutes, go watch the final 10 minutes of that game. It is like beyond bedlam. And young Al Michaels, is calling the game with Ken Dry. Like, it's insane. It is the greatest United States Olympic moment ever. It is the greatest upset in sports history. It's a phenomenal moment in time.
Great end of the podcast today. I love Verderame history. Hey, thank you to everybody who watched today. A ton of comments here. So thanks a lot, Carter and MZ and everybody else who was in on the off-season Stack in the Box, of course, with you 52 weeks of the year, 11 o'clock Central on Tuesday mid-mornings. And Verderame, have a great job at great time at the Combine. I believe we're going to have an NFL guest on next week. KJ Wright is in the mix. So stay tuned for that. And then you'll recap coming back.
And then it's free agency, and it's going to be absolute just full-on insanity.
Looking forward to it. Everybody have a great rest of your Tuesday. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube.
Yes, please.
Please. We appreciate it. And thank you. Tell a friend too. Thank you for watching Stack in the Box.